Thank you all for coming today, if it's your first time, and if you're a new member, for joining the Chamber. We're thrilled that you're here, and we hope that we see you again at our next event. I'd also like to recognize all our generous sponsors and supporters. When I announce your name, I ask all representatives from the company to please stand and remain standing until I've read all the names, and we'll hold our applause until the end. And they are our presenting sponsor, Human Power Solutions, our hosting sponsor, Cyprian Keys Golf Club, supporting sponsors, Cedar Law and Middlesex Savings Bank, our coffee sponsor, Belfour Property Restoration, and Karen Henderson from Westboro TV. Please join me in giving all our sponsors and supporters a huge BFF round of applause. Our supporting sponsor, Human Power Solutions, Sandy Coker, couldn't be here today, but we appreciate her sponsorship, and I'm sure that you will hear from her next time. It's now my great pleasure to introduce today's guest speaker. Dr. Cherie Comeau is a leadership coach, speaker, and founder of CC Leadership Solutions, where she helps leaders and organizations navigate the people side of leadership with more confidence, clarity, and impact. With over 17 years of experience developing leaders and teams across industries, Cherie is known for delivering practical, thought-provoking sessions that blend real-world insight, behavioral awareness, and actionable strategies people can use right away. She brings a grounded, engaging style shaped by her background in leadership development, executive coaching, and collegiate athletics, making her a trusted resource for leaders and teams who want to work, communicate, and lead more effectively. BFFs, please join me in welcoming to the podium a phenomenal woman leader, Dr. Cherie Comeau.
All right, I am not going to use the microphone. Can you hear me in the back? Yeah. The benefits of being an athlete. I yelled from the outfield for many, many years. I also like to move around, and I feel a little restricted, but we're going to make it work. I do not have a slide about my background. What Pam provided, thank you, Pam, is good enough for me. You can creep on my LinkedIn, we can talk later, whatever you want to do. I have 30-ish minutes, and I want to make sure that I jam-pack that with as much information as possible so that you get as much out of this as you possibly can. That is my goal to serve you today, and to start thinking about decisions in a little bit different way. So my goal is that you pick up a nugget or two, that it is practical and relevant for you, but I am going to make you work a little bit. So I know sometimes you come to the sessions and there's lots of inspiration and you're just listening and it's a little more passive, which is awesome. I'm going to make you work. So you can work to the extent you would like. You do have workbooks. To each his own. Everyone learns in a different way. Those are for you to keep. I do not look at them. I do not judge. I ask that we all do not judge. This is the great space that we have that the Chamber provides, where we're able to think through things, we're able to process, and we are able to crowdsource in a way that allows us to talk to different high-performing professional women. So I want you to think for yourself and do some reflection, and then I also want you to take advantage of the amazing women at your table as well. We are going to go pretty fast, so today is not about perfect decisions. I know we like perfect decisions, self-included. This is more about the reflection and the processing and looking at decision-making in a little different way. So when we think about decisions, these are my promises to you today as our objectives, but here's what I want to really look at. As women, a lot of women that I coach, and a lot of women I've come across in the last 17-ish years, we talk about decision-making and the struggle and that weight, as we feel, right? It feels heavy. And yes, there's research around as you go throughout your day, there's decisions that you're making, then you go throughout your week, and by the time you get to Friday, you're like, I may not do any physical labor, but I am exhausted. Anyone feel that? Yeah. So I want to talk about why we feel that exhaustion, and it will vary for each of you. And then I also, more importantly, want to talk about what it can look like for you to make decisions of how you experience decisions differently. So that you walk away and say, huh, I could do a little different. Maybe I make that a little bit lighter. Maybe I have a little more trust in myself, whatever that is for you. So practical and real. 4 things that I came up with around sort of the most common reasons why we experience decision drain. And yes, fatigue is also the word, I just didn't like it, and DD, right? So I was like, let's jazz this up a little bit. And with the conversations that I have, the word that comes up most is, I feel drained. People don't say, I feel very fatigued today. Right? They say, I feel drained. And quite frankly, and with the conversations we had at our table, we have lots of new business owners at our table. The decision, the big decisions that you're making, whatever you talked about, right, it can be draining. And that was the word that stuck with me. So that is why I decided to change that. So yes, you can use fatigue, but I don't feel like many people walk around me like I'm so fatigued. So I feel like the decision drain is something that stays with you. I also think of an actual drain and I'm like, yeah, there goes all my energy. Yeah, thanks so much for coming. Maybe you come back, maybe you don't. So 4 things, and let me know if these resonate for you. This is not exhaustive, just the 4 most common that I see. The volume, just sheer volume of decisions that are made. How many decisions do you think you made before you came here today? Hundreds, if not thousands, right? Research is a little all over the place with decisions, but you're talking, sometimes they say upwards of 30,000 decisions in a day. So you may have already made thousands of decisions. Some decisions you didn't even realize you were making. Did you choose to get rice? Did you choose some of those vegetables? Which of the dressings did you choose? Those are all decisions. I actually put on some real clothes today. That was a hard decision this morning. My sweatpants were looking really hard. But I was like, Karen would kill me. And unlike her sister, I don't want to be on that. The weight that we assign to decisions, right? How important we think they are. And sometimes they are. And sometimes we just assign them some weight that maybe they don't deserve. The revisiting of decisions. Sometimes that's while you're making it. Other times we make decisions, and I often in coaching calls go, well, I made the decision, but then I decided. Didn't we just talk about you made the decision? Well, but I'm thinking I could have, should have. So now we're remaking decisions. And then open loops. What loops are you keeping open? What things are you avoiding? So those are 4. Do those resonate? Do we feel those? Have we felt those? Are we currently feeling those?
Currently.
Right, yeah. All the time. And the thing that I find most when coaching and speaking and training with women is that it's not only just the visible decisions that are being made, it's the invisible decisions that are being made. The home decisions that aren't known or seen at work. The work decisions that aren't seen or known at home. And the weight that you carry of those decisions that you make. Additionally, I often find the pressure that women put on themselves, especially high-performing women, thank you everyone in this room, in the judgment. Just pressure and judgment puts a level of weight on decisions that we oftentimes don't even realize we're putting on. That contributes to that draining feeling. So that's why when Karen was like, what topic are we going to talk about? And I'm so glad that this was chosen, because it is one that comes up time and time again. And why does it come up? And oh, we want to be better, right? High-performing women. I want to be great at everything. So I challenge you to think about it's not being perfect. It's not a perfect answer. It's not being a perfect decision maker, quite frankly, doesn't exist. Even the best decision makers are not perfect. But I want you to look at decision making a little bit different when you leave this room today, and that's what we're going to talk about. So yes, decision making is about strategy. You have to be able to analyze data. You have to have good judgment, right? You have to maybe have some critical or creative thinking. Those things are important, absolutely. What we think about less when it comes to decision making is that it is also about energy. That's what I want us to think about today. Not the strategy around decision making, but what is the energy you are giving to it? How does that feel? And what is the impact of the energy that you're giving? So of course I came up with a framework because all trainers do. So this clear framework, there's many frameworks that you can use to actually go through the process of making a decision. This for me, I decided to do because it was different. I wanted to look at energy and patterns. So that's what I'm going to challenge you to do today. Not think about the strategy of making decisions, but to actually think about the patterns in the energy to help reduce your drain. You certainly, as we go through this, you certainly can use it as a single decision-making tool, but the reason I came back to it and really focused on it as patterns is because I think we forget about those pieces. We don't look at decisions as groups of decisions. We think about one big decision or one important decision. So instead, I want to look at decision-making as a group of decisions and how you approach decision-making and how you choose to use your energy. So let's go ahead and go through those. The first thing I'm going to have you do, what I would ask that you maybe use your workbook, but again, no judgment. It's your decision. So I want you to think about the last, let's say, week, maybe week and a half to 2, and I want you to think about 5 to 10 decisions that you either have made or maybe you're still in the process of making. I want you to choose the ones that feel heavy to you. So not the easy ones. I want you to choose 5 to 10 that really feel like they were weighing you down. Some of you overachievers are going to come up with more than 10, that's fine. I at least want you to try and get to 5 so that we can really start to look at patterns. Okay? So I'm going to give you about a minute or so. You do not need to write a book. Just a couple words so that it resonates about what that decision was, right? What it was about. So again, if it's current, great. If it's something you made over the last week or so, that's fine. So I'm going to give you about 60 seconds, 5 to 10, please. 5 to 10. All right, so this is going to become your data. And that's how I want you to look at this. This is data for you to start to understand the energy in the experience that you're giving to decision making. So let's go through them. First is to clarify. Likely heard this before, oftentimes found when you're goal setting as well. When you look at that list, remember that vagueness will multiply your brain. So when you talk about making a decision, you actually first have to recognize that it is a decision you're making. So some of the things I put down that create what I call a fog or a cloud. I need to figure this out. I really need to do something about this situation. I should probably get my life together. Yeah, I'm going to create a plan for that. Have we said those before? How clear are those? Not. Right? Literally just a few months ago when I was like, oh my God, I am newly in a full-time in my business versus part-time business, part-time 9 to 5, and when I really got to figure out my tech, oh! Well, that's not a decision, that's a cluster. You can come up with the other one. Yeah. Right, I need to figure out my tech is not a decision I have to make. I need to determine what my CRM is, that's a decision. I need to know what video conferencing software I want to use, that's a decision. But I need to figure out my tech is not. That's a cluster. So I want you to look at your list and I want you to ask yourself, where are decisions staying vague? Where are they blurred together? You might be combining things. Or where are they just mentally messy? So go ahead and look at your list and see if you can come up with some of those patterns that you're seeing in that list of decisions. And if you give yourself a green light in this, you're like, hey, these are pretty clear, right? I clarified these pretty well. Great. Give yourself a check plus. Give yourself a green star. Again, not everyone is going to be like, I'm delinquent in all of them, right? But something might resonate here. If it does, again, speaking to lots of women from a coaching and or training perspective, a lot of times they get like 5 goals in one, right? Same thing with decisions. Like, well, if I can decide 5 things at one time, that's super efficient. I would like to be efficient, right? But then you're deciding for a group of things, and it's actually not clear. When your brain can't name it, it keeps the loop going. Right, so you have to name it, and you have to name it clearly. Right, so clarification is key. Next up, to limit. Every option that you keep open costs you energy. So I don't want you to think about, oh, well, I'm going to keep it open because it could be good. It also could be draining you. So when you think about the number of options you give yourself in any decision, what does that look like for you? Are you not limiting it to, let's say, ideally I always say 2 or 3, and if doing nothing is an option, it counts as an option. Like, it counts. You don't say, well, I have these, and then I have do nothing. No. Do nothing is one of your options. So when you're thinking about and looking at your list, this one I want you to ask, where do you keep too many options or possibility or loops alive? They are costing you energy, they are draining you. If you do not release them, you may not think they're costing energy, but they are. So look at that list, and again, in some of those decisions, were you keeping a lot of loops open? We think that allows freedom. We think the more the better, right? Ooh, creativity and openness. But ultimately, it's draining. Because now you're thinking through 5, 6, 7 different things. Pros, cons, pros, cons, pros, cons, right? Like, get out the spreadsheet. Right, and you need some sort of algorithm to figure it out. 2 or 3, top, and limit that. And shut them off, right? So we think of narrowing as restricting us. I don't want to be trapped into just 2 or 3 options. The words you choose are incredibly important. Something simple like, if instead of narrowing, trapping you, why isn't it making you intentional? Why isn't it making you focused? So the word you choose to associate with it matters. Just a simple thing of saying, I'm not trapped because I don't have a lot of options. I'm being intentional and only giving weight to the ones that really matter. So look at that list and think about, where are you not limiting and keeping too many doors open, right? Too many loops open, too many doors open. Again, give you a couple seconds, look at that list. Again, we're spotting energy and we're spotting patterns. What I find when you're revisiting this list, if you look at that decision, you're like, whoa, like, I almost re-feel that weight right now. Right? Why is that happening? Is it because you had too many loops open? Is it because it wasn't clear enough? Right? You did not clarify it. The next piece, once we narrow, we need to eliminate. Several ways that we can do this. Not every decision deserves equal weight or energy. So I talked about at the beginning the added pressure, the judgment that we as women will place on things that might not be the weight you need to carry. Right? Is there meaning that we're assigning? Is there fear? What else is happening as we're looking at decisions? This is a quick check that I often ask folks. You can call it a weight check or an energy check. Is something actually important? Or is it just that it's uncomfortable? Change is hard. So sometimes we say something is important when really it just doesn't feel great, right? It's uncomfortable because it might be different. Is something really permanent? Or can it be adjusted? We talked about it over here in our decision. It's like, if you make a decision, a couple months down the line, if you don't like it, can you make a different decision? And oftentimes when we're stuck in the moment, we feel like this is now or never. And this is going to last forever. Whatever I decide right now is forever. And most often, there are some times where things are permanent. But most often, things are pretty adjustable. Right? We adapt and we move as we go. So if you look at that list, again, I want you to think about where maybe have you been giving that high stakes energy to your low stakes decisions? What things feel heavier than maybe they should? This is also an opportunity where you can offload things or come up with systems and processes as well to help eliminate that drain. So is something actually a high stakes decision, or is it that you feel uncomfortable, or is it just plain loud? Because there's some people and some things that can make it feel loud. And we want to reduce that noise. So as you look at that list, where were you perhaps looking at this going, hey, that decision felt heavy, but if I think about it, you might have already made a second decision related to it to adjust already, right? Or you might have given it the weight and then said, you know what, it was just really because I was uncomfortable about it. So what patterns are you seeing? What patterns are you noticing in how you choose to eliminate? And what patterns are you seeing in the process you go through and the energy you are giving to decisions that you have on that list? Are you assigning more weight because of maybe the people involved? Or because of added meaning? That if you wipe that out, the decision would have been easier. This one's my favorite. Once we narrow, then we eliminate. Now we need to align. What do we align with? We align with what matters most. We also want to align with patterns. What is the pressure that's causing the weight we just talked about? That is going to vary for different people. So the reason that this is my favorite, because this is where we get into different behavioral styles. Has anyone taken some sort of a behavioral assessment, like a Myers-Briggs or a DISC or something like that? Yeah, get those dust bunnies, digital dust bunnies or for real dust bunnies, off of those. Huge opportunity to use that data to figure out what your patterns are with regard to how you align and what pressure you assign when you're making decisions. So I want you to ask yourself, as you look through that list, do some of these resonate for you? Is your pattern that you like to keep harmony? I know Karen's is. That's not hers. Right? Do you not want to create tension? Do you not want to upset people? As you look through that list, you go, ooh, like I did make that decision because I really like that person or those people, and I didn't want to upset them. Is it perfection? It's about getting it right or nothing else. The uncertainty, right? Just not knowing. I need all the data. I need one more piece of information before I make this decision. No, wait, one more piece of information. Is it control? No one else can do this like me. I can't possibly delegate that out. I have to create the strategy. There certainly can be others, right? But what are those patterns? What are those patterns that you're seeing, that's energy that you are giving to decisions. So when you look at the list, thinking about what kind of internal pressure tends to make those decisions heavier. Again, the examples on the left are some. If there's something else you assign to it based on the style you have, by all means, feel free to write that down as well. I often found an example for me around urgency is that I would definitely procrastinate on things because I actually like operating in chaos. Or that's what I told myself. And I also told myself I'm really good under pressure. So what happens when you tell yourself your pattern is I'm good under pressure? You create the damn pressure. So what are we doing to ourselves that's creating that? When I was able to go through this and recognize the pattern, I was like, oh, wow. I might be really good under pressure, but I'm also really good not under pressure. How about we give that a whirl? A few more times. So sometimes it's so ingrained, we feel like things are on autopilot. Right? You're like, well, that's just how I operate. Yeah, it is. Guess who created that? You created the autopilot. So we can retrain the autopilot. Not comfortable, right? Because we like what we like, and you're like, oh, it's just how I am. It's just how you are, because those are the decisions you've made to be that way. We can choose differently. Creating this awareness around your patterns, I say awareness creates choice. Once you become aware of patterns, you now can choose differently. So if you do not want to feel the drain of the decisions as they weigh on you over the course of the day, over the course of the week, the quarter, whatever it might be, you can choose differently once you become aware of the patterns that are happening. This is not going to be done in a couple of minutes that we're here, but I do really challenge you to think back not only the decisions that you wrote down today, but others that are weighing on you as they come up. I would say, right, you're not going to go through this thing, right, every single day, but periodically I want you to look at a list of decisions that are open, right, open and still in play, as well as ones that you've decided on. And I want you to go back and look at these. And this step here is where a lot of aha moments happen. Because you're recognizing the pattern of what you've created and your natural preferences and tendencies of how you behave. So that piece of control, that's likely because you are somebody who enjoys control, likes to make decisions, and has to be the one to do that. That extends to your decision making. So really take time to recognize the patterns so you can understand what they mean, the energy that you're giving to it, and then how you can start to choose to change the pattern. The last piece is respond, right? We can become really aware, but if we don't act, it doesn't help. Same thing here when you're looking at a series of decisions. How are you responding? What does that look like for you? What is a pattern? Do you see patterns? Your action does create movement. It also creates momentum. What kind of movement or momentum have you been creating? Your question here is, where do I keep revisiting instead of choosing a next move? Where do you go back and reconsider, reopen that loop? One of my favorite sayings is, don't shit on yourself. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. I shoulda, coulda, woulda done this. Did we make this decision? Are we done? Let it go. You might choose to make a different decision in the future, but right now that decision is done. So how well do you respond? When you look at that list of 5 to 10, how well do you look at those responses and say, yeah, I made the decision, I let it go? Or did you make the decision and have a nice marination time? We're just going to sit in this sauce for a bit. And then maybe we'll put it in the fridge and take it out in a week. It goes bad. This goes bad. Right? What are those patterns for you? And again, it may not be, you may go through all these and say, oh, this is the one where I'm stuck. This is the one that gets me. This is the one that drains me. For some of you, you might say, you know what, there's a couple of these that I can kind of see these patterns that maybe aren't helping me so much. Whatever that is for you, I want you to really think about the energy and the patterns around decision making. Yes, independent decisions matter, and there's some big ones that take a lot of time and a lot of energy. But there's a lot that's happening that we don't pay attention to because we are focused on a decision versus looking and saying, what's preventing me from getting better at decisions? What's preventing me from making this lighter so that when decisions come, I don't feel so weighed down? Awareness creates choice. So my goal with this framework is for you to start to create that awareness so you create choice for yourself. Like I said, the autopilot is hard to reconfigure, but it can be reconfigured. And you've chosen it. So as we look at the framework, we clarify that mental mess, we limit those unnecessary open loops, we eliminate that inflated weight that we put on, then we figure out why we put on that weight, right? Align with what matters and understand those patterns underneath, and then respond instead of revisiting. Another component that I talk about often is people, depending on what side you're on, if you're the I'm an independent, decide alone all the time, or we need everyone to agree. There is a time and place for both. It is not a one or the other. It is a decision in and of itself. When do you include people? When do you not? So a couple of things that come to mind for me that I want to share, because I give this to clients and I say, so if you want this, it might be reflection. If you want this might need more perspective. So the reflection piece is around clarity. If you want ownership, if you want alignment, and you're really looking for that honesty with yourself, that's a decision that you need to reflect. That is a soul decision. Some examples of when perspective is helpful, when somebody else might have expertise that you don't. When you need to be challenged, because maybe it's like, oh, I've done this 10 times and I'm just going to do it the same way. Wait. Do I need to be challenged? Is this the best way? I need somebody to challenge me on that. When you need buy-in is also a really key reason for needing perspective. And then the blind spot check. Am I missing something here? Is there something I'm just not thinking of? So I always say it's never all or none. It's not always about crowdsourcing. Not everyone gets a vote all the time. A really great thought partner can help reduce that drain for you when it's appropriate. So and that might be in the limit stage, that might be in the eliminate, that might be in the alignment, but you can use this at any time. It doesn't neatly fit, but it's really important because I often, I just gotta ask one more person. I just gotta wait one more day. Or my favorite, I'm gonna get till the end of the day to make this decision. Great, are you at your best at the end of the day? I know I'm not, because I'm what? Drained. So giving yourself till the end of the day is saying, I'm going to make this decision when I'm not at my best. Why would you do that?
Because we're good under pressure.
Yeah.
We're good
We're
under
good
pressure.
under pressure. But we're not setting ourselves up to be as successful as possible. So I would rather you say, I'm going to decide first thing in the morning, or I could decide at 5 o'clock today, or guess what, 5 o'clock today, and 8 or 9 or whatever time you start in the mornings, we're going to say, baby. Where do you use your energy? When are you at your best? Make sure you're loading big decisions, and make sure you're not looking to say, oh, I need to include someone because why? What is the reason? Otherwise, you end up keeping those open loops. In the limit, your limit step can get really unlimited the more people you ask. Right? A couple other tools to reduce the drain, and these are things that you might be using. I often say that we just don't use them enough, or we start to use them, but then we kind of get tails off, kind of like going to the gym. You're like, oh my God, I've got to shivering first, and then you're like, what happened? I'm paying for the gym? When did that happen? So these are some options that you have: pre-decide, default, batch, and boundary. And I'm going to have you just chat for a couple of minutes. How many minutes do we have? Like 1 or 2 minutes. You have in your workbook an actual table. What I love most about the table is that who or what category. Is it saving me from me? I'm a really good negotiator with myself. I'm like, I'm going to decide to do this, and then I'm going to decide to do differently, right? And I negotiate with myself. So the pre-decide, right, that's the whole thing of like, do you meal prep? Do you pick out your clothes the night before? If you're going to go to the gym, you put the sneakers to bed, etc., right? How do we eliminate some of those low-stake decisions so that we don't have to make them? Pre-decide on them. The default is a system piece. So the systems around templates, SOPs, we know the word AI, we know it, right? There's a lot of power in automations. I'm not saying you're going to dive all into them. All I'm saying is we can automate a lot of stuff, and I think it's only going to get better. So if I can offload some admin stuff, I am all about it. Those are some of my hardest decisions, because that's not my zone of genius. I know what my zone of genius is. Do you know your zone of genius? That's where you need to be. Admin work, not my zone of genius. So how do I have templates and SOPs that I can hand it off and say, this will get done? Batching things, underrated. Anyone else batch mental activity together? Right? So, underrated. I could also put multitasking here, but I didn't on purpose, because what do we say about multitasking? I'm a really good multitasker. Yeah, but you're really not. Again, you've convinced yourself you are, and there are some things, can I walk and chew gum and that kind of stuff, but when it takes real, mental energy, we actually are not good at switching contexts. So if I'm creating posts for social media, and that's creative energy, and then I'm creating strategy for, let's say, a Q2 plan, that's different mental energy. Context switching costs me time, it also costs me energy. So the decisions I'm making in those two areas are not as good as if I just stayed in one for a period of time. Now, what that period of time is going to vary for each of you, right? Someone like, look, 60 minutes is all I got. Pomodoro technique, if you haven't tried it, amazing, right? So do your 20, 25 minutes on, take a 5-minute break, 20, 25 minutes on, 5-minute break until you're done, right? Those are great ways to block your time in a way that saves mental energy. And then boundaries. I know we're great at this. This is one we tend to be like, oh, but I want them. We can decide, right? Sticking with it's a different story. The difference between the pre-decide and the boundary, right? The pre-decide saves me from me, right? The boundary saves me from others. What is protecting my time, my energy, and access to me? Right? So that's the difference between your boundaries and your pre-decide. There could be some things that are examples that you're like, oh, I'm between two, or could they fit in multiple categories? They may. What I would ask you to think about is, what is its purpose? What are we trying to save? Right? Is it me for myself in the self-negotiation? Is it helping to save my brain? Is it helping to save me from others? So those are the questions to ask. So just give me about a minute, turn to a person, we have 9. So a person or 2 next to you, which one of these could you leverage more? Which one of these could you leverage more? Or leverage period if you haven't. And you can look in the workbook for additional information. So just about a minute. All right. So at the end of the handouts that you have, I'm a big believer in action plans. So anytime you go to any training, hear anything, learn anything, it only makes a difference if you actually do something with it. So my hope and goal is that you picked up a nugget or 2 and that you will use that. You do not need to fill this out right now, but I do ask that you take it with you. And a plug for this event and the chamber, what I would encourage you to do is to fill this out, and then whoever you met today, set a coffee date, have a conversation to follow up, and talk about what you tried and how you have reduced your drain because of whatever you applied. Anyone think about or recognize patterns or way they're using their energy that they feel like they could change something, even if little, after today? Okay? Great. So, pick your buddy, set a coffee date, and do that, one, to improve networking, because we all need to do that, and that's what we're here for, and empower and supporting women is amazing, and it also keeps you accountable. I would very much appreciate it. Go back to just, so 1 minute, QR code for the evaluation. I very much appreciate it, so I can decide what works and doesn't work, and how I can continue to get better. Also super helpful to the chamber, so I would very much appreciate if you scan the code and give us your feedback. You can open it and then fill it out in a bit. And then I have my contact information in your workbook. Please feel free to reach out if you want to process through something, if you want to talk about working together. I'd be happy to do that. Thank you so much.